Chapter 1190. Damn you. Yu Lily slapped the back of his hand. Do you have any shame? Do you know who I am? Let me ask you, does your face hurt? How could he not know? But, he just wanted to be with her. He really wanted to be with her. He thought of sneaking out and didn't even have time to change his clothes. When he heard that she was here, he used all the money in his wallet to get someone to bring her here. Who knew, after coming here, he had no idea where she was, and he couldn't find her. He could only stay at the police station and let the police help him. Hearing what she said, Oh Ming shut his mouth. He grabbed her hand and said, Let's eat first. I'm starving. Miss, do you want to stay here? The receptionist asked. No. Stop. The two of them said in unison. Yu Lily turned her head and glared at him, but he just stared blankly ahead without much expression on his face. Are you staying or not? The receptionist was also driven crazy by the two of them and asked helplessly. Yu Lily face-bombed. Let's open it first. If you don't live with me, I won't live with you. Oh Ming's voice was indifferent, but the words he said made it sound like he was angry with Yu Lily. When Yu Lily heard that, she was both angry and amused. She glared at him and asked, If you don't want to stay, you'll sleep on the bridge? Oh Ming answered without hesitation, That's fine too. You're crazy. Yu Lily waved her hand. Then go sleep on the bridge. Just think of it as me being bitten by a dog out of kindness. Most importantly, this dog was insatiable. You're scolding me. Oh Ming sounded a little aggrieved. I'm so hungry that I don't have any energy. Yu Lily really felt that her temper was off the charts. She looked down at her arm that was held tightly. No matter how she looked at it, this guy didn't look like he was hungry and had no strength. But in the end, he couldn't let it go. After giving the receptionist an apologetic smile, he took Oh Ming's ID card back. Cold. Outside, Yu Lily was so cold that she doubted her life. She brought Oh Ming to a restaurant that was still open, but they didn't eat hot pot. Yu Lily ordered hot soup and desserts. She also ordered some light dishes and let him eat by himself. Oh Ming couldn't see, and he could only move one hand. At this moment, he was holding the chopsticks in his hand, so he had to fumble around to get the rice in his bowl. Yu Lily ignored him. After eating her dessert, she leaned back in her seat and took out her cell phone. When she picked it up, she realized that Yi Qianqian had called her several times. She didn't know when the phone had been set to silent, but it didn't even vibrate. As soon as she picked it up, Yu Lily replied to her WeChat message, telling her that a friend had asked her out and that she was having supper. He took a picture and sent it over. Yi Qianqian immediately sent him the middle finger. After drinking a bowl of soup and eating a few mouthfuls of rice, Oh Ming put down his chopsticks. Yu Lily was playing with her phone, but when he put down his chopsticks, she immediately noticed. He glanced at her and asked casually, Are you full? Oh Ming's expression was the same as usual as he said, Plain rice, tasteless. There's food in front of you. They were all Oh Ming's favorite dishes, and they were all exquisitely prepared. Oh Ming's eyes were unfocused. He looked ahead and said calmly, I can't see it. Chapter 1191. Yu Lily's tone was very harsh and full of disgust. When Oh Ming heard that, his expression was still indifferent, and his eyes were empty. He said, In that case, I'll look like a fool. You're not a fool. You're blind. Yu Lily put down her phone and put her hands on the table. She said seriously, This privilege is not only for fools. Blind people can also have it, so you can rest assured. Oh Ming's lips were tightened, and his hands were hanging by his side. He asked, Can't you feed me? When Yu Lily heard that, she laughed out loud as if she had heard a joke. She asked, Feed you? I invited you to dinner and let you stay in a hotel because of our past relationship. Mr. O, don't push your luck. Otherwise, you'll really have to sleep on the street today. Then I'll sleep on the street, Oh Ming said as if he had accepted his fate. He looked at Yu Lily and asked, "Will you accompany me?" Yu Lily heard that and smiled coldly. She looked away and looked out the window. It was very late, but as the busiest area in the area, there were still a lot of people coming and going. The street lights illuminated many people. On the side of the road, a homeless man could be clearly seen lying in front of a closed shop. "You're down and out, but I'm not. Why should I accompany you?" Yu Lily's voice was indescribably cold. She looked out the window and curled her lips cruelly. She said, "In your current situation, how are you like the O Ming of the past? You have no money, you're blind, and you're disabled. You still want me to serve you? Why?" O Ming's hands were hanging by his side, and he slightly tightened. His lips were tightened, and his eyes blinked twice, but they were still unfocused and empty. There was no brilliance of the past, no brilliance of the past. In the words of you and your mother, I'm with you because of your money, your beauty, and your power. You're blind now, and it's only a matter of time before your family's company fails. I'm not interested in wasting time with you. Yu Lily's eyes gradually turned red as she said that. That's right. Lowering her head slightly, Yu Lily picked up the teacup and drank 2 mouthfuls. However, when the water entered his throat, it was as if his eyes were being burned. Yu Lily's eyes began to burn uncontrollably, and tears welled up in her eyes silently. O Ming narrowed his eyes slightly and said with certainty, "You're not that kind of person." "I am." Yu Lily replied without hesitation. She snorted coldly and ran her fingers through the stray strands of hair on her cheek. Her voice was arrogant and full of pride as she said, "I've been one for a long time. You've already seen through me, haven't you?" His voice was calm and composed, but the watery light couldn't help but spread out. Yu Lily wiped her eyes and laughed at herself. Fortunately, O Ming couldn't see it. Otherwise, it would be awkward. She was the one who dumped him, so why was she the one crying? She doesn't like you at all. She just lacks someone to serve her wholeheartedly. You can't just throw yourself at her for nothing. How despicable. When he needs you, you are whatever you say. When he doesn't need you anymore, what do you say you are? Chapter 1192. However, O Ming sat in his seat and didn't move. Yu Lily stood opposite him and looked down at him. The man in front of her was wearing a long down jacket that didn't suit him. One of his hands was hung around his neck, and his lips were tightly pursed. He looked serious. At that moment, he seemed to have heard Yu Lily's words, and his face became even more tense. "I'm hungry," O Ming said with a straight face. "Then eat." Yu Lily sat down and looked at the man in front of her. She had no intention of going up to feed him. "I'll wait for you for 10 minutes. Are you in a hurry?" "Yes." Yu Lily said with her eyes wide open. "Then I won't eat. Let's go." O Ming stood up and groped his way out of his seat. When Yu Lily saw that, she was shocked and quickly asked, "Aren't you still hungry? Aren't you in a hurry?" O Ming asked. "I'm in a hurry, and you eat your meal. That's not a conflict, right?" When O Ming heard that, he calmly said, "You don't have time to feed me. I can't eat by myself." Yu Lily was speechless. He's actually so self-righteous. Should I be the one to feed him? She should be the one to owe him? Yu Lily laughed angrily. "O Ming, how can you be so shameless?" When O Ming heard that, he didn't continue the conversation and said, "Let's go." When Yu Lily heard that, she looked at the exquisite dishes on the table and said regretfully, "There are so many dishes, and you haven't even touched a single chopstick. What a waste." O Ming stopped in his tracks and turned his head to look at Yu Lily's face. The eyes of the man in front of her were empty and without focus. There was no light in them. Inexplicably, when Yu Lily met his eyes, she felt a little guilty. She knew that he couldn't see, but she felt as if she had been seen through. Annoyed, Yu Lily sat down and picked up her chopsticks. She picked up some food and put it in her bowl. As she ate, she mumbled, "Damn be ****. I ordered so much food for nothing." Yu Lily buried herself in the work. In a place where she couldn't see, Oh Ming's lips quietly raised, but it was fleeting, leaving no trace. Oh Ming fumbled around and sat down again. He sat quietly. When Yu Lily saw this, she was even more furious with this guy. She stepped forward and roughly grabbed his hand, stuffing a spoon into his palm. Then, she put some food into his bowl with her chopsticks and said, "Eat it yourself." Oh Ming put the spoon aside, spread out his palm, and said calmly, "I want chopsticks." Yu Lily gritted her teeth. She picked up the chopsticks and shoved them into his hand. Oh Ming slowly ate the food in his bowl. His movements were slow, but his chopsticks never missed. He ate for more than 10 minutes. Yu Lily continued to put food in his bowl several times before Oh Ming slowly stopped. Seeing that he was almost done, Yu Lily called for the bill. As soon as she said that, Oh Ming said, "I want to eat ice cream." He added, "Chocolate-flavored." Yu Lily glared at him and said fiercely, "Eat until you die." Although that was what she said, she still asked the waiter to bring an ice cream over. After paying the bill, Oh Ming couldn't hold the ice cream because his hands were injured. Therefore, the heavy responsibility naturally fell on Yu Lily's hands. Chapter 1193. It was very fragrant and sweet. Yu Lily liked ice cream, especially vanilla and chocolate-flavored ice cream. Yu Lily used the spoon to scoop up the ice cream and put it into her mouth. She blinked and pulled Oh Ming's arm to hold hers. Then, they walked out. Oh Ming's footsteps staggered, but he quickly steadied himself and followed Yu Lily out. As soon as they got out, the freezing cold feeling came back again. Yu Lily held the ice cream in her hand. As she ate it, she shivered and gasped for air. Oh Ming seemed to sense something. He tightened his grip on Yu Lily's arm and asked, "Where's my ice cream? Why are you eating ice cream in such cold weather? I'll throw it away if my hand freezes." Yu Lily lied through her teeth as she walked out. Anyway, he couldn't see, and he wasn't the one paying. Yu Lily didn't feel guilty at all for lying to a blind man. However, Yu Lily didn't notice that the moment she said that, Oh Ming's eyes flashed with a smile. Liar. It's true. Yu Lily restrained herself a little and put her hand down. Why are you eating ice cream in such cold weather? You didn't take it with you. You deserve to be thrown away. Liar. Oh Ming repeated this sentence and reached out to touch Yu Lily's hand. Yu Lily quickly put the spoon in the ice cream bowl and let him touch her hand. At that moment, Yu Lily didn't feel guilty at all. She said impatiently, "I said I didn't. Are you afraid that I'll take it for myself?" Oh Ming's lips seemed to curve as he said, "You're very likely to do such a thing. I'm not that kind of person." You are. Yu Lily glared at him and pushed him. Do you mean that I'm lying to a blind man? Am I such a heartless person? With that, she subconsciously hid the ice cream behind her back. It's up to you whether you believe me or not. Let go. Oh Ming's lips curved, but then he returned to his original state. With some regret, he said, "I haven't tried eating ice cream after a meal." That was Yu Lily's old habit. She had gradually changed it. Hearing Oh Ming's words, Yu Lily suddenly felt guilty. But, so what? The blind man needed someone to serve him. Did he want her to feed him ice cream? Dream on. In her heart, Yu Lily scooped a bigger mouthful of ice cream and stuffed it into her mouth. When she turned around and saw Oh Ming's regretful and aggrieved expression, she felt even more pleased. Serves you right. Yu Lily brought the blind man back to the 5-star hotel. She took out his identity card and gave it to the receptionist. A single room. I said, "If you don't live with me, I won't live with you." Oh Ming repeated what he had said countless times. I can't see anything by myself. I'll be scared. When Oh Ming said this, there was a hint of bitterness in his voice. In the ears of others, it sounded even more like Yu Lily had abandoned him. Yu Lily was speechless. She took out her ID card and said, "I'm staying here too. Let's get a king-sized room." Okay. The receptionist smiled and looked at Oh Ming and then at Yu Lily with a smile on her face. After registering and paying, Yu Lily led the blind man to find a room. Chapter 1194. Yu Lily glanced sideways at his tightly clenched fists, and her eyes darkened. She turned her head away and looked straight ahead. The phone vibrated slightly, and Yu Lily picked it up. It was a message from Shinjilia. Shinjilia, where are you going to meet your friends so late at night? Do you want me to pick you up? Yu Lily held the message in her hand and looked at the line of words. She knew it was Yi Qianqian who had told him. After thinking about it, Yu Lily replied, "No, I'll go back later." Shinjilia replied quickly, "It's so late. It's not safe for you to be alone. I'll pick you up." "Where are you?" Yu Lily frowned and replied with a bitter face, "It's really not necessary. I'll go back later. I'll tell you when I get there. It won't take long." Oh Ming's arms slightly tightened, and his voice was a little low as he asked, "Not yet? Is it that far?" Only then did Yu Lily raise her head, look around, and find that they had arrived. She took out the key card and opened the door. After pulling Oh Ming in, the phone rang again. "Shinjilia, well, you have to be careful when you're alone. Try to go to a crowded place." Yu Lily's heart warmed, and her face unconsciously softened. She sent an emoji that said, "Brother, what time is it? How can there be a crowded place?" Shinjilia. Shinjilia, that's not good. I must go and bring you back. Where are you? Yu Lily sent another emoji that said she didn't look and then didn't reply. Oh Ming stood behind her the whole time. He didn't move, nor did he speak. Yu Lily glanced at him and pulled him to the bed. She let his hand touch the edge of the bed and said, "This is the bed." Then she took him to the bathroom and counted the steps. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, 4 steps. 10 steps, this is the bathroom. "Yeah," Oh Ming responded faintly and said, "I want to go to the bathroom." "Go ahead." Yu Lily opened the door to the bathroom for him and pushed him in. "Take care of it yourself." However, just as Yu Lily was about to shake his hand off and leave, she was pulled back by his large palm. He asked, "You're not going to help me? Please, do you need help to go to the bathroom? Don't you know how to take off your own pants?" Yu Lily rolled her eyes at him and flung his hand away. But before she could shake him off, he yanked her forcefully and pressed her against the bathroom door. He held her palm with one hand and placed it in front of her chest. His body weight firmly pressed her down. Yu Lily was shocked. Caught off guard, Oh Ming's knee was already in between her legs. His face was less than 2 centimeters away from hers. Such a sudden scene made Yu Lily inexplicably feel suffocated. Subconsciously, she wanted to push him away. Yu Lily frowned and was about to yell at him. Suddenly, he lowered his head and sealed her lips. Without any explanation, he went straight into her mouth. His movements were domineering and wild, with some inexplicable fierceness. He sucked her tongue with a bit of punishment. Hot breaths intertwined with each other, and the temperature of the space between their bodies climbed inch by inch. Yu Lily was even more furious, and her sense of humiliation was rising. This bastard, what did he take me for? Chapter 1195. No, maybe he's not even as good as a whore. Even if he's a whore, he should have dignity and integrity. A woman like me might just be a plaything in his heart. When he was happy, he would give her some sweets, coax her to say that he would marry her, and tell her that he would love her deeply. When he was unhappy, he would immediately show his true colors. Just like his mother, he guarded his own land, for fear that others would covet it. As long as she got a little closer, they would be like hedgehogs, hurting people who tried to invade. Such a man, who could afford to have him, his kiss was getting deeper and deeper. Heavily and deeply. In the past, Yu Lily would have given him a happy reaction. But now, Yu Lily's heart was only left with pain. As the kiss deepened, the pain became more and more hysterical. Her remaining hand pressed against his stomach. Yu Lily pushed him away, and her breathing became more and more heavy. Oh Ming released her lips, but his hand didn't move. He sighed and said, "The taste of ice cream." Yu Lily's eyes were even more hot. She pushed him away, raised her hand, and slapped his face hard. But at the moment when it was about to fall, Yu Lily stopped her hand in midair. In front of her, Oh Ming's eyes were empty and unfocused. He just looked forward, as if he knew nothing about what was happening. Her hand was suspended in midair, but in the end, it didn't fall. Yu Lily bit her lip, sneered, and pushed him away. She said sarcastically, "Since you are so hungry, why don't I help you find a special service?" When Oh Ming heard that, his face darkened. He reached out with one hand to pull her, but Yu Lily avoided it. Yu Lily glanced at his hand and sneered. "Do your parents know that you can still be so evil when you are blind?" Then, she turned and walked straight to the door. But before she had time to open the door, she heard rapid footsteps behind her. Oh Ming seemed to want to grab her hand, but he miscalculated. As a result, he grabbed the sweater behind her with one hand. But it was such a grab that Oh Ming's mood obviously calmed down, and he shouted, "Yu Lily." With her back to him, Yu Lily looked at him coldly and stopped to pull his hand away. However, Oh Ming's grip became tighter and tighter. He tugged at her clothes and walked toward her. Yu Lily straightened her back and pretended to be calm as she turned to look at the man behind her. There was no light in his eyes, nor was there any trace of his usual pride. Oh Ming was like a child who was dependent on an adult. Oh Ming grabbed her sweater and begged helplessly, "Don't go." Yu Lily's heart shook. It was like a giant metal bell in the wind and rain was suddenly struck by lightning. The big bell suddenly made a huge noise, causing her heart to feel numb and sore. Unable to maintain the expression on her face, Yu Lily's eyes became dry, and tears began to flow. But then, Yu Lily immediately reacted. He wiped his eyes with his hand and tried to sound normal. His voice was cold as he said, "Mr. O, I only have one piece of clothing. Please leave one for me. It's very cold outside." But Oh Ming didn't let go. He begged, "Then stay, don't go." Chapter 1196. Yu Lily's voice was stiff as she looked down at his hand. She tried to sound calm and said, "Since we've broken up, I don't intend to be entangled with you anymore. If the police hadn't asked me to take you away, I wouldn't have bothered with such a troublesome person like you. Please let go, Mr. O." But Oh Ming didn't speak. He silently grabbed her clothes and pulled them tighter. Yu Lily pursed her lips, and her voice was a little hoarse. She chuckled and said, "It seems that you really want me to run around naked." As she said that, she started to lift her clothes. Oh Ming didn't expect Yu Lily to do that. He shouted, "Yu Lily, what are you doing?" Yu Lily ignored him. She lifted her clothes and quickly took them off. The cold air suddenly hit her, and she was so cold that she couldn't breathe. Wearing only her underwear, Yu Lily's footsteps were loud as she walked toward the door. Oh Ming couldn't stand it anymore. He held her sweater tighter and tighter. He gritted his teeth and shouted, "Wait a minute." Yu Lily stopped and turned to look at him. She only had a bra on her upper body and thin black pencil pants on her lower body. What was the difference between going out like this and running naked? Oh Ming gritted his teeth and threw the sweater in front of him. "You can go." Then he seemed to remember something and reached for the zipper of the jacket. "And this, I'll give it back to you." Oh Ming took off his jacket and tossed it in front of him. Then he turned around and carefully felt his way toward the bed. Seeing Oh Ming like that, Yu Lily took a deep breath. Looking at his back, she finally picked up the sweater, put it on, and walked out. The door closed with a soft creak. Oh Ming sat on the bed, and his eyes were red and blank. As Yu Lily walked out, she searched for her contacts on her phone. She found Xiao Ziqing's number and dialed it. Sure enough, it couldn't be reached. Even Oh Ming's cell phone had blocked her cell phone number, let alone her own cell phone. The extent to which Xiao Ziqing disliked her was deeper than Yu Lily had imagined. Yu Lily smiled bitterly and went out to find a public phone to call Xiao Ziqing. It was past midnight, but when the call was made, the other side was not asleep yet. She sounded very energetic, but Xiao Ziqing sounded a little tired. "Hello, how are you?" "Hello, Mrs. O." Xiao Ziqing was clearly taken aback when she heard the voice. "I'm Yu Lily." Yu Lily knew that she definitely knew who she was, so she quickly cut to the chase and said, "I'm currently in XX City in Fujian Province. Your son ran around here today and was taken to the police station. I later brought him out and settled him in a hotel." After telling him the name of the hotel and the room number, Yu Lily cut to the chase and said, "You don't have to thank me too much. Take him away quickly. In the future, please keep your son in check and don't let him pester me again." Xiao Ziqing held the phone in her hand. She was so emotional that tears finally rolled down her cheeks. She shouted, "What do you mean by this? My son was doing fine at home. Why did he suddenly run off to Fujian? You must have brought him there, right?" Chapter 1197. The condescension and disdain in her words were so obvious that it was shocking. This woman. How dare she throw a tantrum at me? Who gave her the guts? Who gave her the ability? Xiao Ziqing was annoyed. Just as she was about to say something, Yu Lily had already hung up. Xiao Ziqing stomped her foot in anger. This was the only woman in her life who had dared to point at her and scold her. But, at least, she had found her son. Xiao Ziqing called her husband excitedly. In her heart, she had cursed Yu Lily 1,000 times. Unexpectedly, Huajin didn't have much of a reaction. He said, "I got it. I've already sent someone to bring him back. Don't worry. Go to sleep." Xiao Ziqing panicked and yelled, "How can I fall asleep before our son is back? It's fine. I've already sent Lao Wen. Don't you trust him?" Xiao Ziqing was speechless. She didn't give up and asked, "Do you know who told me about our son?" "Who?" "It was that woman. Yu Lily." Xiao Ziqing gritted her teeth. "That woman tricked our son to such a faraway place. What is she up to?" When Huajin heard that, he felt helpless. He sighed and said, "Xiao Qiao, you've wronged that girl. She can't even get through to our son's phone. How could she have tricked him to go there? Furthermore, you know Xiao O's character. If he wasn't willing, who would have been able to force him to do it?" Xiao Ziqing gritted her teeth. He was right, but she was still displeased. She asked, "Why are you speaking up for her?" "Xiao Qiao. When did you become so unreasonable? Xiao O has grown up. As his parents, we can't interfere too much with his choices. You should just leave him be." When Xiao Ziqing heard that, she felt wronged. She retorted angrily, "How can you say that about me? Are you still my husband?" With that, she hung up the phone in a huff and called Wen Fenglin. Wen Fenglin seemed to be busy. It took him a long time to answer the call. When he answered, Xiao Ziqing couldn't wait to ask, "Lao Wen, did you go to fetch my son?" When Wen Fenglin heard that, he chuckled. "How did you know? Did Lao O tell you?" These words were tantamount to tacit approval. Xiao Ziqing sighed a breath of relief and said, "Yes, who else could it be other than old O? Since you've gone, I'm relieved. You must bring Lil O back." "Yes, I'll definitely complete the task," Wen Fenglin replied with a smile and quickly hung up. However, after hanging up the phone, he stretched his back and lay on the bed. When Yu Lily returned to the hotel, it was almost 1:30. The room was dark, and Yi Qianqian was fast asleep. Yu Lily carefully locked the door, found some clothes, and after taking a shower, she carefully crawled into bed. "Where did you go to fool around? Why are you back so late?" Yu Lily hadn't expected Yi Qianqian to suddenly speak. She was shocked. He kicked Yi Qianqian and rebuked her, "Don't you know that you can scare someone to death?" Yi Qianqian pouted and flipped over. "So, where did you go?" "I went to eat with a friend. I just finished eating. I sent him back first before coming back." "Male or female?" Chapter 1198. It was a silent night. Lily didn't wake up until 9 o'clock. When she turned over, she found that Enchanting was nowhere to be found. He picked up his phone and opened WeChat. He immediately saw the message that Enchanting had left for him. "Sissai, we're eating at the restaurant downstairs. Come down when you wake up." It was sent 5 minutes ago. Looking at the message, Lily subconsciously thought of Ming. Ming didn't seem to have any money on him. Apart from the hotel, she didn't seem to have left him anything. He didn't even have clothes. Then, Lily remembered that she had already called his mother yesterday. By now, she had probably been picked up. Lily got up and yawned, feeling a little funny. Worrying about nothing. After washing up, they went downstairs. After Lily found them, they had breakfast together, and then she led them to the surrounding scenic spots. In the morning, they went to a beach. The fishy and salty sea breeze blew over, causing them to shiver from the cold. Fortunately, they were fully prepared today, and their bodies were all wrapped up tightly. Lily and Enchanting took off their shoes and walked to the beach. Looking at the ebb and flow of the tide, Lily wanted to go down, but she was afraid that it would be too cold. In the end, Enchanting dragged him into the water and stepped on him. The cold made him feel good. Lily felt so stimulated that her bladder was about to explode, and her whole body trembled. Old Mrs. Shen looked into the distance and shouted, "Lily, the water is too cold. Don't go in. It's not good for your health." Lily's heart warmed. She smiled brightly and waved at old Mrs. Shen. "It's all right. It's not that cold. Come on, it's time to eat." Old Mrs. Shen took out a huge backpack. "Come on, let's have a picnic." Although the old lady was not young, she often had the temperament of a child. In the morning, when I heard that there was going to be a picnic, I was so excited that I almost jumped up. When Lily saw this, she quickly pulled Enchanting onto the shore, wiped her feet, put on her shoes, and ran over. As soon as she sat down, Lily's phone rang. The caller was from the city, and the number was from a landline. Lily took a look and seemed to have guessed something, but she wasn't so sure. After all, Ming's mother should have taken him home by now, right? Lily hesitated before picking up the phone. "Hello? Hello, may I ask if you're Miss Yu?" It was a very professional female voice. Lily replied, "I am." "Wait a moment." Then there was a commotion on the other side, followed by a man's voice. "You." Without a doubt, it was that person. Lily frowned and looked around. She stood up and walked a little further away. Her tone wasn't very pleasant as she asked, "What do you want?" The man on the other end of the line didn't seem to notice Lily's impatience and said calmly, "I'm hungry, and I don't have money to eat." "What does it have to do with me? You're the one who brought me here." "Of course it's none of your business. You registered your ID card yesterday. I can sue you for abandoning a disabled person." Ming was confident and didn't look like he was begging for help at all. Abandoning a disabled person? Lily's lips twitched. It was obvious that she couldn't accept this sentence. "Then go ahead and sue me. Anyway, I called your mother and let your mother pay for you." Chapter 1199. Ming's words carried a tinge of grievance and resentment. He sounded so pitiful. She had thought that he wouldn't be able to accept the fact that he couldn't see. Who knew that he would accept it so quickly? He kept calling her a disabled person. That was even worse than her. "Hasn't your mother gone to look for you?" Lily clearly didn't believe him. Based on Xiao Ziqing's protective nature, how could she not have arrived by now? Ming could hear the suspicion in her voice. He shook his head and said, "No." "Why? Are you sure that you called my mother? You're not lying to me, are you?" Before Lily could speak, Ming continued, "Lying to a disabled person? Lily, can you be any more beastly?" Lily was speechless. "Come quickly. I'm borrowing the hotel's phone to make the call." If you don't come, I'll starve to death here. With that, he hung up. EXM. He hung up? Yu Lily suddenly felt a surge of anger. She was so angry that she laughed. What right does this guy have to order me around? He was the one who chased me away, and he was also the one who pestered me. What right does he have? If I starve to death, I'll starve to death. It's as if I've never been hungry before. Since we've already broken up, why can't he be more straightforward? He's done it once, twice, and now he's sticking to me again. Even I feel cheap. I've already informed his mother. Whether he lives or dies, I don't care. Yu Lily's eyes darkened. She turned her phone off and returned to her friend's group to continue her picnic. Shinjilia saw her obviously angry expression and handed her a box of biscuits. As he ate, he asked, "Who is it?" "Nothing." Yu Lily picked up a biscuit and took a bite. She felt a little strange. As she sipped her drink, she asked, "Could it be the friend who called you out last night?" "What kind of friend is this? Why are you so angry?" It was just a casual question, but the moment it left her mouth, Yu Lily's expression darkened even more. When Yi Qianqian saw the expression on Yu Lily's face, she immediately shut up and said, "Pretend I never said anything." "No." Yu Lily bit the biscuit and took a drink from behind her. When old Mrs. Shen saw that Yu Lily was clearly in a bad mood, she quickly changed the topic and started discussing where they were going to visit that afternoon. After the four of them finished their picnic, they packed up their things and took a car to another famous scenic spot. During that time, Yu Lily didn't turn on her computer even once. However, everyone could see that Yu Lily was absent-minded the whole afternoon. Shinjilia thought that she was in a bad mood, so he led the women to a dessert shop. "I heard that when a woman is in a bad mood, she'll feel much better after eating desserts." Shinjilia handed the menu to Yu Lily and asked with a smile, "How about ice cream?" However, when Yu Lily heard those words, she felt even more uncomfortable. He picked up the phone and turned it on. More than 10 missed calls popped up. There were mobile numbers, landline numbers, and without exception, they were all from the same city. This guy. Don't tell me he hasn't eaten yet? Looking at the time, it was already past 4 in the afternoon. If he hadn't eaten for the entire day, he would definitely be famished. What if he starved to death? Chapter 1200. Yu Lily was shocked and immediately covered the phone. When she turned her head, she saw Shinjilia's doubtful gaze, but there was a hint of understanding in it. She felt even more guilty. Everyone knew that she and Oh Ming had broken up. Old Mrs. Shen had heard every word that Oh Ming had said to her. If she knew that the caller was Oh Ming, it would be awkward. Yu Lily shook her head. A friend. Although she said that, she still felt guilty. Was this considered a lie? It was a lie, but it was also a white lie. When she turned her head and saw Yi Qianqian's disbelieving gaze, she felt extremely guilty. She picked up the phone and said, "Wait for me. I'll make a call." Under the strange gazes of the three of them, Yu Lily walked out of the dessert shop and called the landline number immediately. The phone was quickly picked up. "Hello, Sheraton Resort Hotel." Sure enough, Yu Lily thought about her words and said, "Hello, my surname is Yu." Before Yu Lily could finish her self-introduction, the receptionist interrupted and said, "Miss Yu, are you looking for Mr. O?" "Yes. He is now in the lobby of the hotel. The room he stayed in last night automatically checked out. Please come and pick him up quickly." Hearing that, Yu Lily felt even more guilty. The receptionist noticed that Yu Lily was silent, so she continued, "It seems that Mr. O hasn't eaten or drunk anything today. The staff here brought him water and food, but he didn't touch them." This guy. Yu Lily's heart ached when she heard that. She asked, "Did no one come to the hotel to look for him today?" "No, he only looked for you today. No one else came to look for him," the receptionist said. "I see. Thank you." "You're welcome. Please come quickly. Mr. O's clothes are too thin. It's really inconvenient for a blind person." At the end of the sentence, Yu Lily could clearly hear the rebuke in her voice. Yu Lily's heart ached. After responding, she walked back into the dessert shop. Under their strange gazes, she picked up her bag and said, "I'm going out for a while. I'll be back later." "Are you going to see the friend from last night?" Old Mrs. Shen looked at Yu Lily and said with a straight face, "Whether it's a boy or a girl, why don't you let the youngest accompany you?" After old Mrs. Shen finished speaking, Shenjilia stood up as if it was his duty to do so. "That's right. I'll go with you. I'm not familiar with this place, so it'll be more convenient to have a man with me." Yu Lily knew that they were concerned about her, but the place she was going and the people she was going to meet made her feel awkward. How could she let Shenjilia follow her? Yu Lily bit the bullet and shook her head. She smiled awkwardly and said, "There's no need. I'll be back in a moment. You guys go ahead and eat first." With that, Yu Lily walked away quickly. Old Mrs. Shen looked at Yu Lily's anxious footsteps, and her doubts deepened. Shenjilia stood up and said, "I'd better go take a look. You guys can order something to eat." "Huh?" Yi Qianqian's eyes widened. "Stalking? That's not a good idea, is it?" Chapter 1201. Shenjilia reached out and knocked on Yi Qianqian's head. Then, he picked up the coat on the chair and said, "I'm going. You wait here." With that, he followed behind Yu Lily. Yu Lily didn't notice that Shenjilia was following her. After taking a taxi, she went to the hotel where Oh Ming was. When she arrived at the hotel, it was almost 5:30. As soon as Yu Lily entered, she saw Oh Ming in the reception area of the left lobby. At that moment, Oh Ming was wearing only the thin purple silk pajamas that he had worn the day before. At that moment, he was sitting on the sofa with a man sitting next to him. There was a radio on the table, and it was playing opera in a low volume. When Yu Lily saw him, her heart, which had been worried for a long time, suddenly relaxed. Walking quickly toward that place, Yu Lily's anger was getting bigger and bigger. Her footsteps became heavier and heavier. Facing the man in front of her who had no focus in his eyes, she was angry that he didn't live up to her expectations. In a huff, Yu Lily took off her down jacket and threw it at Oh Ming's face. When the man next to her saw this scene, he looked at Yu Lily with a smile and asked, "Miss, are you the young man's girlfriend?" "Yes." Yu Lily didn't answer, but Oh Ming spoke first. The man stood up and patted his thigh. After picking up the radio, he said with a sigh, "Then I'm leaving too. My wife is still waiting for me." "Thank you." Oh Ming thanked him sincerely. When Yu Lily saw this, she smiled at the man and said, "Thank you. I'm sorry for the trouble." The man waved his hand and said, "What can't a young couple talk about? Your man's eyesight is bad. You went too far by throwing him into the hotel. You can't do this again in the future." Yu Lily was embarrassed and quickly explained, "He is not my man." But as she spoke, she saw Shenjilia walking toward her not far behind the man. Even if Yu Lily had 10 brains, she would never have thought that Shenjilia would follow her. Looking at Shenjilia's steady steps, Yu Lily's face suddenly became hot. Yu Lily could imagine the look on her face as the temperature hit her. When Shenjilia saw Yu Lily's face suddenly turn red, he found it a little funny. At the same time, he looked at her meaningfully and asked, "Why didn't you wait for me?" Yu Lily felt even more embarrassed. Before she could think of a reply, Shenjilia walked up and pulled the down jacket that was covering Oh Ming's body. He said, "How can you wear women's clothes?" However, he was unable to pull that piece of clothing back even though he was pulling it like that. Oh Ming tugged on the down jacket. His eyes were a little hollow as he looked forward, but his face was indescribably gloomy. He asked, "Why are you here? Why can't I be here?" Shenjilia's eyes turned cold, and he forcefully pulled the clothes over to him. Oh Ming didn't have much strength, especially after starving for so long. How could he compete with Shenjilia in brute force? Chapter 1202. However, Oh Ming didn't take it. With a wave of his hand, the down jacket fell onto the sofa beside him. He said, "You Lily, give me the jacket." When Shinjilia saw this, he laughed and asked, "Oh Ming, can you see me?" As he spoke, he stretched out 5 fingers and waved them in front of him. "Are you really blind?" Although Shinjilia was teasing Oh Ming, Yu Lily's heart suddenly felt very uncomfortable. She reached out and pulled Shinjilia back. In a low voice, she said, "Enough. Oh Ming can't see now. Don't bully him." When Shinjilia heard that, his eyes became even colder. But then, as if he had no choice, he went forward to pick up the down jacket and put it on Oh Ming. However, Oh Ming's face became even darker. He pushed Shinjilia away and coldly said, "Don't touch me." Shinjilia took a step back and looked at Yu Lily helplessly. He shrugged and said, "I didn't bully him. Now, the blind man is bullying me. I'm not the one bullying the blind man." Oh Ming stood up and reached out as if he wanted to touch Yu Lily. However, Shinjilia suddenly stood in front of him and said, "Why are you sitting here without any clothes on? Aren't you cold? You still have the mood to come out for a vacation in your condition? Isn't your mother worried about you?" Although his tone was calm and even full of concern, in Oh Ming's ears, there was only sarcasm and mockery. Oh Ming gritted his teeth. His face was dark, but his voice was calm. He said, "Shinjilia, what are you doing here?" "I came with Lily." Shinjilia's words were full of laughter, but there was an indescribable sense of pride and provocation in them. "So, she asked you to help, didn't she?" Oh Ming stood up. Under Shinjilia's surprised gaze, he picked up Shinjilia's jacket and covered it with one hand. He said, "I've been hungry for a long time. Take me to eat." Oh Ming's expression was much calmer than before. Such an attitude was beyond Shinjilia's expectations. Shinjilia looked at Oh Ming with interest. He put his hands in his pockets and asked, "What do you want to eat?" "You Lily, what do you want to eat?" Oh Ming asked. Yu Lily was suddenly called. She was stunned for a moment and then reacted. "Aren't you the one who has been hungry all day?" "I'm not hungry. Let's go." Shinjilia tugged on Oh Ming's shirt and said, "Since we don't know what to eat, let's go to Chongqing Hot Pot together." "No, that's too spicy." Oh Ming had been hungry for a whole day, so he couldn't eat such spicy food all at once. His stomach wasn't very good to begin with. If he ate such a stimulating thing, he definitely wouldn't be able to take it. Yu Lily's words were almost blurted out. After she said it, she realized that something was wrong. Shinjilia looked over and said seriously, "It's okay. My stomach is much better now." When Yu Lily heard that, she knew that Shinjilia might have misunderstood something, but she was happy to go along with what he said. She smiled awkwardly and said, "Even so, you can't eat it. If you eat too much, your stomach won't be able to handle it." Shinjilia smiled and nodded his head. "I'll do as you say." However, there were bound to be people who were happy and people who were worried. Hearing their ambiguous words, Oh Ming clenched his teeth, straightened his back, and tensed up. Chapter 1203. Yu Lily thought so too. When she heard Shinjilia's proposal, she immediately nodded. When she turned to look at Oh Ming, she found that his expression didn't change much at the moment. That meant he didn't object. Yu Lily walked in front. The more she thought about it, the more strange she felt. With Qiao Ziqing's protective character, how could she ignore Oh Ming? Even if she delayed it, Oh Ming should have been taken back by now. The more she thought about it, the more she felt that something was wrong. She turned to Shinjilia and said, "Take him to dinner first. I'll make a phone call." "Okay." Shinjilia smiled and waved at her. "I'll call you later and tell you where it is." Yu Lily nodded and walked away. The smile on Shinjilia's face gradually disappeared. He turned to look at Oh Ming, who was unwilling to leave. There was no expression on Oh Ming's face, but his temperament was very gloomy. His whole body was filled with dangerous displeasure. "Why don't you walk? Are you lame?" Shenjilia's words were very impolite. He sneered. Since you've broken up, can't you stop? Please, Master O, there are so many women in this world. Why don't you let go of you, Lily? Can you go and harm other women? The two of you are really not suitable. It's not up to you to decide whether it's suitable or not. Oh Ming's voice was very calm. I think it's very suitable. Then what do you think she is? A broken shoe? You can have and throw her away whenever you want. She is my woman. Oh Ming's voice was calm. When he said these words, his expression was indescribably serious. Come on, who can be your woman? Shenjilia looked at the blind man with a gloomy expression. Now you Lily is my girlfriend. I hope you won't pester her anymore. It's not up to you to decide. Oh Ming stepped forward and said calmly, she loves me. As long as I am alive, she can't be with you. I won't give up on her. You should give up. Shenjilia looked at the calm blind man in front of him and felt a little unreasonable. He shook his head and said, can you have a little self-awareness? Do you think you still have the right to pester her? You're already a cripple. Who do you think you're worthy of? He couldn't see, and his hand was broken. Even if his hand would recover sooner or later, what about his eyes? There were too many uncertainties. How could anyone gamble in such a situation? Oh Ming didn't say anything. No one is obligated to be with you. You Lily isn't yours. She's a free woman. Fortunately, she didn't get married to you. Otherwise, she'd have to spend the rest of her life with a blind man. That would be too miserable. Shenjilia sneered. Didn't you know your place before? Is there any use in regretting now? There is no medicine for regret in this world. People like Oh Ming were proud and conceited. Shenjilia had originally thought that in such a situation, it would be enough to defeat him. Unexpectedly, Oh Ming's toughness was much stronger than he had imagined. He had survived so quickly and even chased her all the way from Kingstown to here. However, Oh Ming had already dug his own grave. All he needed was for Shenjilia to fill it up for him, and then he would truly be consigned to eternal damnation. Chapter 1204. No matter how proud and complacent Oh Ming was, he was just a blind man. If he couldn't see anything, how could he be proud? Unexpectedly, when Oh Ming heard this, he acted as if nothing had happened and was indifferent. Oh Ming groped his way forward, and his footsteps seemed a little cautious. Shenjilia was stunned to see him brush past him. That's not up to you to decide. Why did you add so much drama to yourself? His voice was indifferent, but the sarcasm in it was obvious. Does you Lily know that you're so narcissistic? Such an attitude was far beyond Shenjilia's expectations. He had thought that Oh Ming would be angry, furious, or even cursing him. Shenjilia had expected such a reaction from him. However, none of it happened. Oh Ming walked in front. His figure was thin, but his back was very straight. The accident had made him lose a lot of weight. However, even looking at his back, Shenjilia felt that he had been played by him. His anger immediately overflowed. Shenjilia didn't know where this inexplicable feeling came from, but the anger in his chest became more and more intense. No, I can't be angry. It would be too ungentlemanly of me to be angry with a blind man. Shenjilia took a deep breath and watched Oh Ming walk toward the main road in front of him. He had no intention of stopping. Seeing his back like this, Shenjilia was still so angry that he gritted his teeth. He quickly walked up to him and pulled him back. His actions were rough as he shouted, "If you go any further, you'll be hit by a car and die. Since you're blind, you'd better stay put." When Oh Ming heard that, he obediently stood there and didn't move. For some reason, Shenjilia found that Oh Ming was particularly well behaved that day, but his heart was even more stifled. It was as if a lump of cotton had been stuffed into his heart, blocking his anger. It couldn't go up or down, and it was indescribably uncomfortable. "Where's my woman?" Oh Ming asked. Shenjilia pulled him toward a nearby restaurant and asked impatiently, "Where did you get your woman?" Oh Ming knew that he wouldn't admit it, so he simply changed the way he asked, "Where's you Lily?" "I don't know." "Are you blind, too?" "Won't we know once we take a look?" Shinjilia was infuriated. He shoved him and said angrily, "How can a blind man like you be so confident? Do you think I can be a clairvoyant and see everywhere?" After being pushed by him, Oh Ming appeared to be much calmer. Patting the place he had pushed, he snorted and said, "If you don't want to look, then don't look. Why are you angry?" Shinjilia felt as if he had swallowed the fire in his mouth. He felt an indescribable sense of suffocation. Gritting his teeth, Shinjilia stretched out his hands and gestured angrily in front of Oh Ming's neck. He was so angry that his face was twisted. Shinjilia wasn't sure if he was hallucinating, but he seemed to see the corners of Oh Ming's lips curl up. Shinjilia became even angrier. He put his hands down and coldly asked, "What are you laughing at? Did I smile?" He laughed. "Well, I suddenly thought of something fun," Oh Ming said leisurely as he stood there. "Why are you reacting so strongly? Can't you let me laugh?" Shinjilia wanted to strangle him even more. He exhaled and said, "Let's go. Didn't you say you haven't eaten? Let's go eat. Where's you Lily? She hasn't come yet. You go and see. Where did she go by herself? Take care of yourself first, you damned blind man." Chapter 12:05. Even Shinjilia himself felt a little scared when he thought about it. His footsteps gradually slowed down. Shinjilia turned his head and looked at Oh Ming's eyes. At that moment, Oh Ming's eyes were empty, unfocused, and without purpose. With such a pair of eyes, he must be blind, Shinjilia frowned. He stretched out 2 fingers and waved them in front of Oh Ming. "How many fingers are these?" When Oh Ming heard that, he seemed a little surprised. Then, he said calmly, 5. When Shinjilia heard that, he felt that this guy was pretending to be blind. He asked suspiciously, "How did you know?" No idiot would wave 2 fingers in front of a blind man, right? Shinjilia's face darkened. "You were pretending to be blind." As he spoke, Shinjilia's eyes were fixed on Oh Ming's face and his eyes, for fear of missing any details. However, Oh Ming's eyes were still blank and unfocused. He looked, it didn't look like he could see it. Under Shinjilia's suspicious gaze, Oh Ming chuckled and said, "So, did I guess right or wrong?" Shinjilia didn't say anything. He still stared at Oh Ming's face. Oh Ming raised his eyebrows and asked in a mocking tone, "Are you really that retarded? You're wagging your fingers around?" Shinjilia was speechless. Shinjilia turned around uncomfortably and retracted his fingers. Then, he pulled Oh Ming toward a Cantonese restaurant not far away. Behind Shinjilia, Oh Ming's lips curled into a triumphant smile. It was very shallow and fleeting. Shinjilia suddenly thought of something. He suddenly turned his head and looked at Oh Ming. When he saw that Oh Ming's expression didn't change, he looked around and pulled Oh Ming toward a Sichuan restaurant. However, as soon as they entered the door, Oh Ming immediately stopped and pulled Shinjilia back. He said, "Don't eat spicy food." "How did you know?" Shinjilia looked at Oh Ming with a triumphant expression. "You were pretending to be blind, weren't you?" Oh Ming asked, "Is there something wrong with your nose, or is there something wrong with your brain? Can't you smell such a strong smell?" Shinjilia was skeptical. He sniffed. It seemed like there was indeed quite a bit of smell. Shinjilia was a little reluctant, but he quickly pulled him out again. After following Shinjilia into the dining room, Oh Ming obediently sat down at Shinjilia's table. The waiter quickly served them tea and the menu. You Lily hadn't returned yet. Shinjilia tossed the menu to Oh Ming and said, "Order whatever you want to eat." Oh Ming reached for the menu and put it aside. His eyes were unfocused as he asked, "What kind of restaurant is this?" "Cantonese cuisine." Shinjilia looked down at his hand and asked, "You can't smell it this time?" "There's the smell of a purifier here." Shinjilia blushed with shame. He took a whiff and realized that there really was a little of it. Shinjilia took the menu and muttered to himself, "Damn blind man. His nose is pretty sharp." Chapter 12:06. Oh Ming was so hot that he sucked in air. The cup rolled a few times before it fell to the ground and shattered. Shinjilia was shocked and frowned. Soon, she took out a tissue to wipe him clean and pulled him up. She pulled Oh Ming's hand up and saw that his skin had been scalded red. The waiter quickly came over to help clean up. Seeing the red skin on Oh Ming's hand, he said, "Sir, do you need some ice to apply to your wound?" "Okay, thank you," Shinjilia said on Oh Ming's behalf. Unexpectedly, Oh Ming gently pushed Shinjilia away and said, "Why didn't you remind me that there was boiling water in front of me?" When Shinjilia heard that, he felt a little baffled and said, "Who knew you would knock it over? You deserve to be scalded to death." Oh Ming's face darkened, and he said, "Shinjilia, even if you're testing me, there should be a limit. I only have one hand left, and it hurts like hell. How am I going to eat later?" His voice was sonorous, and his interrogative intent assaulted everyone's senses. Shinjilia's face darkened. "Do you want me to feed you?" Oh Ming didn't say anything and sat down again. Seeing this, Shinjilia knew what Oh Ming meant. "Does that mean you Lily should feed it?" What a joke. Shinjilia sat back down unhappily. Soon, he received a call from Yu Lily. Shinjilia gave Yu Lily the address and the table. He hung up the phone and poured Oh Ming a glass of water. Yu Lily called Oh Ming's mother, but it wasn't Xiao Ziqing who answered the phone. It was Oh Ming's father. When Oh Huijin heard what Yu Lily had to say, he looked shocked and said, "I see. Lao Wen is in Fujian, too." Perhaps Oh Ming's mother asked Lao Wen to fetch him. We'll be at ease leaving it to Lao Wen. As Yu Lily listened, she found it a little strange, but she couldn't pinpoint exactly what was strange about it. After exchanging some pleasantries with Oh Huijin, he hung up. Yu Lily called Wen Fenglin again, but he seemed to be busy on the other end. Yu Lily called him a second time before he picked up the call. "Lily, what's the matter?" "Uncle Wen, I heard that you are also in Fujian. Are you here to pick Oh Ming up?" When Wen Fenglin heard that, it was as if the matter had just occurred to him. He said, Yes. If you hadn't reminded me, I would have forgotten about it. Xiao Qiao asked me to bring Xiao O back, but I'm busy right now. Are you with Oh Ming now?" If I don't fulfill my promise to Xiao Qiao, I'm afraid there will be some trouble in the future. Lily, you're a good girl. Do me a favor and take care of Xiao O first. When I'm done with my work, I'll bring Xiao O back, okay? When Yu Lily heard that, she felt a little awkward and said, "Uncle Wen, I've already broken up with Oh Ming. If I continue to take care of him, I'm afraid it's okay. Lil O likes you the most. He won't mind." But she minded. Oh Ming's mother hates me. It's better if I don't get involved with her. Chapter 12:07. Yu Lily held the phone that had been hung up on. She had mixed feelings. How could this be? Oh Ming's mother had passed the phone to Oh Ming's father, and Oh Ming's father had pushed the matter to Uncle Wen. Was Oh Ming really their child? He must have been picked up. Leaving a blind man in such an unfamiliar place, wasn't this committing a sin? Then, Yu Lily remembered again. Oh Ming had a wide network of friends. He had friends from all over the world. Although they weren't close friends, there would definitely be a lot of people trying to curry favor with Oh Ming after hearing his name. For such a person, as long as he made a phone call, would he be afraid that he wouldn't be able to eat or drink well? Or could it be that he didn't want others to see him like this? The more she thought about it, the more likely it seemed. Yu Lily suddenly felt a little sad. In the end, it was all because of his pride. Yu Lily had no choice but to go back. After making a phone call to ask for Shinjilia's current location, Yu Lily rushed there. As soon as she arrived, Yu Lily found Oh Ming holding a towel in his hand. That hand didn't look right. Yu Lily couldn't help but look at it and asked, "What's wrong with your hand?" It was scalded by boiling water. Oh Ming put down the towel in his hand and took the initiative to open his hand. It looked a little serious. There were blisters on the back of his hand, and his palm was also red. How did it get scalded like this? Yu Lily frowned and reached out to take Oh Ming's hand. Seeing that it was obviously in pain, she didn't feel comfortable. She turned to look at Shinjilia and said, "You can't even look at a blind man properly. He wants to test if I'm really blind." Oh Ming was the first to complain, but he didn't finish his sentence. Oh Ming didn't need to say more. Yu Lily could guess what he was going to say next. So, he put the boiling water in front of him and deliberately scalded him? When Yu Lily heard that, she looked at Shinjilia with a layer of reproach. When Shinjilia heard that, his eyes widened and he quickly retorted, "Hey, can't you finish your sentence? You were the one who knocked it over. Don't accuse me wrongly. But you asked me several times if I was pretending to be blind, and then I spilled the water. It really makes people think too much." Oh Ming said confidently. His eyes were unfocused, but his voice was sonorous. F***ck, are you saying that I deliberately harmed you? I didn't say that. You said it yourself, Oh Ming said calmly. He didn't sound angry at all. Shinjilia felt even more wrong than Do-e, especially when he saw the obvious distrust in Yu Lily's eyes. He felt even more hurt. This damn blind man. You even know how to complain first. Now that Oh Ming was in a weak position, it was human nature to choose to trust the weak. Shinjilia had already lost the initiative. No matter what he said, Yu Lily would assume that he was quibbling. What was even more frightening was that after Oh Ming complained, he used the trick of retreating in order to frame him to jump into the pit himself. F***ck. What the hell is this? Oh Ming is such a schemer. Shinjilia was furious, but he didn't know what to say at that moment. Chapter 1208. Yu Lily didn't continue the topic. Oh Ming was a little disappointed. However, it seemed that Shinjilia already had a small flaw in Yu Lily's heart, didn't he? Oh Ming sat calmly. There was ice in the towel in his hand, so his hand didn't hurt so much. He said, "I haven't ordered yet. I was waiting for you to come. I can't see the menu, and this guy doesn't want to read it to me." Shinjilia said, "When did you let me read it? You know I can't see it, but you still threw the menu to me. What do you mean by that?" Oh Ming asked. Then, Shinjilia caught Yu Lily's gaze again. Shinjilia was about to go crazy. He thought that Oh Ming would really be honest after he was blinded. He didn't expect that it was all an act. He pretended to be honest in front of me and waited for Yu Lily to come back to attack him. This method is too despicable. But it is indeed the truth. Shinjilia couldn't even say a word in rebuttal. Especially after he caught Yu Lily's gaze, he was even more angry at Oh Ming. "Then I'll order," Yu Lily said. She called the waiter and listed a few of Oh Ming's favorite dishes. After that, she gave the menu to Shinjilia and asked, "What do you want to eat?" Shinjilia's mood had been almost completely blown away by Oh Ming. After randomly ordering a few dishes, he put the menu back. They were now sitting in a booth, facing each other. 2 people could sit on each side. Oh Ming sat alone, and Shinjilia sat with Yu Lily. The dishes were quickly served. Oh Ming held the towel in his hand and said calmly, "My hand was scalded. I can't hold the chopsticks. Yu Lily, feed me." When Yu Lily heard that, she looked at Oh Ming's hand. It did look a little serious. It was red, swollen, and blistered. It must be very painful. Unexpectedly, before she could react, Shinjilia stood up and walked to the side of Oh Ming's seat. He said, "Your hand was injured because of me. Let me feed you." Shinjilia took Oh Ming's bowl and said, "What do you want to eat?" "I'll feed you." Yu Lily pursed her lips and smiled. She said, "Then I'll leave it to you. Feed it well." As she said that, she picked up the chopsticks and ate slowly. No, I can't eat if he feeds me. It doesn't matter. You can't see it anyway. You can just treat me as a stunning beauty. Shinjilia picked up his chopsticks and picked up some food. Come on, open your mouth. Oh Ming looked away with a look of disgust. There's no beauty as ugly as you. This is the first time I feed someone. Eat well. Oh Ming's mouth was tightly shut, and his eyes were closed. He had a look of despair on his face. Do you want to eat it or not? Yu Lily glanced at him and lowered her head to eat. Shinjilia put down his bowl and picked up his chopsticks. He sighed and said, Why did you have to do that? What's the point? If he angered Yu Lily, he wouldn't be able to get away with it. Maybe Yu Lily would just leave him behind, and then... she would go back to the hotel with him and leave the little blind man alone and helpless. Shinjilia's heart was in turmoil, and he looked proud. Let's do it. Let's see who's more ruthless. Chapter 1209. Oh Ming's stomach ached, and he called out, Yu Lily, I'm hungry. Yu Lily looked up at Oh Ming from the corner of her eyes. Then, she looked down and said casually, Then eat. Who wouldn't let you eat? Feed me. His voice and tone were indifferent, no different from usual. But at this time, it sounded like she was acting coquettishly. Shinjilia, feed. When Shinjilia was called, he immediately straightened his back and volunteered, I'll feed you. Oh Ming was reluctant, but when he thought of his current situation, do you want to feed me to death? Killing is against the law, big brother. If I want to kill you, I have to find a cleaner way. Shinjilia rolled his eyes. So, are you going to eat or not? I want to drink soup. Shinjilia reluctantly gave him a bowl of soup and placed it in front of him. Feed me, he said in a commanding tone. Shinjilia was unhappy and said, Who are you talking to? You hurt my hand like this. Of course, you're the one who should feed me. Oh Ming's tone was indifferent, without much emotion. Shinjilia smacked his lips and turned his head to call out, Waiter, bring me a straw. Oh Ming was speechless. Yu Lily was speechless. The straw was quickly brought over. Shinjilia stuffed it into Oh Ming's mouth and stuck it into the bowl for him to drink. Oh Ming seemed particularly well behaved that day. Such a comical scene was rarely seen. Yu Lily couldn't help but smile. She quietly picked up her phone and recorded a short video. Does it taste good? Yu Lily asked. I can't. There's residue at the bottom. Oh Ming didn't seem to realize that he had been secretly filmed. He lowered his head and said, Can't you help me hold the bowl? My hands aren't that long. Let Shinjilia hold it for you. Shinjilia saw that Yu Lily was recording, so he quickly covered his face and said, Just make do with it. If you're blind, don't act like that. Go back to sleep after eating. Then Shinjilia picked up his chopsticks and picked up some food and rice. He lifted Oh Ming's chin and said, Open your mouth and eat. Oh Ming looked reluctant, but he still opened his mouth and ate the rice. Good boy, eat more. Shinjilia picked up more vegetables and rice and stuffed them into Oh Ming's mouth. Oh Ming hadn't even finished his first spoonful, and now another spoonful came. His entire mouth was stuffed. Yu Lily chuckled and asked, Is it delicious? However, Oh Ming's mouth was full of rice, and he couldn't speak at all. Ha 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 ha. Shinjilia finally let out a sigh of relief. Is it delicious? Would you like some more? As Shinjilia fed her, he texted Yu Lily, Don't I look like the landlord's silly son? Yu Lily couldn't help it and almost spat it out. One of them held onto the sofa and laughed so hard that his shoulders shook, but he didn't make a single sound. When Shinjilia saw her smile, he laughed along with her. But neither of them made a sound. Oh Ming chewed the rice and quietly squeezed the hand holding the towel. This meal, Shinjilia fed Oh Ming until he was full. After leaving the dining room, Shinjilia took Oh Ming's hand and went to Yu Lily's side. whispering something. From time to time, Oh Ming could hear Yu Lily's laughter. The displeasure and resentment in his heart grew deeper and deeper. Chapter 12:10. When Feng Lin got out of the taxi and stood at the majestic and elegant entrance. His face was full of emotion. Rui Art Association. There was a gathering every 3 years, and the time of the gathering wasn't fixed. This time, when Feng Lin had received a last-minute notice and had come to Fujian to attend to Oh Ming's matter. The moment he got out of the taxi, he saw a few luxury cars stopping in the distance. Compared to them, his style seemed a little shabby. When Feng Lin didn't mind. He carried his bag and walked up. Among the people who got out of the luxury cars, there were people about his age. There were also people from Oh Ming and Yu Lily's generation. There were quite a number of them. It looked like the scale of the event this time was much larger than the one he had attended 9 years ago. When Feng Lin swaggered in, and quite a few people recognized him. A young man walked up. When he saw Wen Feng Lin, his eyes were filled with surprise. He asked, "Are you Senior Wen Feng Lin?" Wen Feng Lin looked at the young man and realized that his face was somewhat familiar. For a moment, he couldn't place him. He smiled and nodded his head. "That's me. Hello. My name is Zhen Li. My father often mentions you to me." "And your father is?" "Zhen Xianlang." When he heard the name, Wen Feng Lin immediately understood. He laughed heartily and shook hands with him. "I didn't expect his son to be so big already. You must be 25 this year, right?" Zhen Li was a little embarrassed. He shook his head and asked, "Do I look that old?" When he heard that, Wen Feng Lin found it a little strange and asked, "Did I remember wrongly?" I'm 21 this year. After the new year, I'll be 22. Let's go, Senior Wen. This way, please." This time, it was Wen Feng Lin's turn to be embarrassed. He smiled and nodded his head. There were quite a number of people who recognized Wen Feng Lin. After all, the name of the wandering artist was too well known. As the associate director of the Art Association, Zhen Xianlang had been inside for a long time. When he heard others mention Wen Feng Lin, he was surprised and quickly came forward. After more than a decade, Zhen Xianlang looked very different from before. When they were young, both of them were handsome and dignified. After not seeing each other for so many years, the two of them had become more and more casual. Zhen Xianlang had a crew cut. His hair was short and black, just like when he was young. He was tall and strong and looked very healthy. His eyes were big and brimming with energy. His facial features looked well defined, but there were obvious wrinkles on his face. When Wen Feng Lin saw Zhen Xianlang, he felt a sense of familiarity. When Zhen Xianlang saw Wen Feng Lin, the joy in his heart overflowed onto his face. He went forward and gave his good friend, whom he hadn't seen for many years, a big hug. "It's been a long time. Brother." Wen Feng Lin chuckled and patted him on the shoulder. "That's right. I didn't expect you to have a second child. I thought you'd never get married." When Zhen Xianlang heard this, the smile on his face froze slightly. Seeing that something was wrong, Zhen Li quickly said, "Dad, it's time to eat. Let's go inside." "Yes, let's go inside." Chapter 12:11. Brothers in the past, love rivals in the past, old friends now, and memories now. In the end, he was still an outstanding young man. With a family like the Zhen family, how could he possibly remain unmarried for the sake of a woman? Wen Feng Lin had already expected this, but he couldn't help but feel disappointed. You chose the wrong person. Yu Lily had arranged for Oh Ming to stay so far away from the hotel because she didn't want Xinjilia to know. Now that Xinjilia knew, and Yi Qianqian also knew that the friend she was talking about was Oh Ming, Yu Lily brought Oh Ming to the hotel she was staying at. There was a large shopping mall near the hotel. Yu Lily brought Oh Ming there to buy a few changes of clothes before she checked into a room with him. When they returned to the hotel, they realized that old Mrs. Shen and Yi Qianqian hadn't returned yet. Regardless of whether they called Shenjilie or Yu Lily, the result was the same. It was normal for one person to be like that, but if both of them were like that, then something wasn't right. Yu Lily and Shenjilie were a little worried. Yu Lily said, "Why don't we go look for them together? It can't be that both of their phones ran out of battery, right? If it was really just that their phones ran out of battery, then everything would be fine. But what if, it was a very scary thing to think about." Shenjilie was even more afraid. "I'll go look for them. Wait for me. I'll bring O Ming to the room, and then we can go together." After Yu Lily said that, O Ming's grip on her hand tightened. Shenjilie looked at O Ming. He was a little reluctant, but it wasn't good to leave him alone. After thinking about it, he said, "Forget it. You'd better stay here. If I can't find them, then you can come with me to look for them." Yu Lily looked down at O Ming, who was holding her hand tightly, and nodded her head. "All right. Be careful." After Shenjilie left, O Ming's whole body relaxed. Yu Lily clearly noticed the subtle changes in him. She was a little amused. She took the key card and took him to find a room. After entering, O Ming didn't want to let go and said, "I haven't showered in a few days, and I'm not wearing proper shoes. I'm so dirty." His meaning couldn't be clearer. He just wanted Yu Lily to help him bathe. Yu Lily pretended not to understand. She threw the clothes she had just bought for him onto the hotel bed. She opened the package of the men's boxers and threw it to him. Then, she found a bathrobe for him and said, "Go take a shower. My hand is burned. Look." O Ming stretched out his hand and said, "It hurts. It's burning. I think it'll hurt even more if I touch hot water." Indeed, there were blisters. Yu Lily pulled his hand over and felt the pain just by looking at it. "Uncle Wen said he would come and pick me up after he's done with his work, but I haven't heard from him yet. By the time he comes to help me bathe, I'm sure I'll be stinking." When Yu Lily heard that, she looked up and asked, "Have you contacted Uncle Wen?" "Yes, he seems to be very busy recently." Yes, Uncle Wen had repeatedly reminded her to take good care of O Ming. O Ming didn't look like he was being taken care of at all. Chapter 12:12. When O Ming heard that, he smiled and nodded his head. "Okay." Yu Lily took off her coat first. She was wearing a thin white long shirt and a pair of tight black leggings. She unbuttoned her cufflinks and rolled up her sleeves. She took off Shenjilie's coat and said, "Take off your clothes first." "Okay." O Ming was very cooperative. After Yu Lily unbuttoned his shirt, he followed her into the bathroom. They had known each other for 7 or 8 years. Even if she saw him naked, Yu Lily wouldn't be too shy. After all, she was already used to it. But her current identity. It was a little awkward. Taking a deep breath, Yu Lily walked in to fill the bathtub with water, but she found that the room didn't even have a bathtub. "How do I wash it? A shower? Oh Ming, there's no bathtub. Why don't you go to my room to wash? I've already taken off my clothes. It's so troublesome to put them back on. Let's do it this way. What if the water splashes your hands? I won't get wet if I'm careful." Oh Ming didn't care. He walked forward, opened his arms, and said, "Come on, let's finish this quickly." Indeed, it was too inconvenient for O Ming to put on clothes with his hands. Yu Lily couldn't be bothered. She turned on the shower head and tested the temperature. After confirming that the temperature was suitable, she let O Ming hold the shower head. Yu Lily took off his clothes quickly and helped him wash his hair. But O Ming was too tall. Yu Lily couldn't reach him at all. She reached out and pressed his shoulder. "Squat down." "Okay." O Ming was very obedient. He was so obedient that even Yu Lily felt a little surprised. After washing his hair, Yu Lily stuffed the shower head into his hand and grabbed a towel to help him dry his hair. Unexpectedly, Oh Ming held the shower head and sprayed it on Yu Lily's body as if he didn't have eyes. Yu Lily exclaimed and took a step back. But it was too late. Most of her body was already wet. Did you get wet? Oh Ming seemed to realize something and stood up apologetically. I can't see. Oh Ming's attitude was so sincere that Yu Lily couldn't get angry. She sighed, dried his hair, and said, "It doesn't matter. It has to be washed anyway." Then, "Shall we shower together?" As he spoke, he turned the shower head to the side and poured water over Yu Lily's body. Yu Lily swallowed all the words that were on the tip of her tongue. "Forget it, he can't see anyway. Let's bathe together. It's not like we haven't bathed together before. It'll be fine after I send him to bed later." She stood on her tiptoes to help him dry his hair. Yu Lily didn't notice the distance between them. As for Oh Ming, he could clearly smell the fragrance that belonged solely to her. Looking down, Yu Lily was soaked. Her thin white shirt stuck to her body, outlining her exquisite and well-proportioned figure. The neckline was slightly open, and the seductive snow-white skin was overflowing with seductive fragrance. The white bra was clearly outlined, and the plump peach that was wrapped in it was ready to come out. It made one's blood boil. Chapter 12-13. Hearing this, Oh Ming came back to his senses. He touched his nose and said blankly, "I have a nosebleed." Yu Lily was frightened. She stood on her tiptoes and reached out to touch his forehead. Then, she touched his face and asked, "Where are you feeling unwell? Quick, I'll help you get dressed. Let's go to the hospital." Yu Lily was scared out of her wits. No, I feel uncomfortable." Oh Ming touched his nose and then poured the shower head on his nose. Yu Lily was stunned. She seemed to think of something and subconsciously lowered her head. Oh Ming was shocked. He quickly pulled her and said, "I'm fine. Let's continue." "Are you sure?" Yu Lily reached out and touched his face, and then touched her own face, but she couldn't feel anything. She patted him on the shoulder and said, "Squat down a little." When Oh Ming heard that, he bent his legs. Yu Lily put her forehead close to his, trying to feel his temperature. However, it didn't seem to make much difference. If he didn't have a fever, why would he have a nosebleed? Before Yu Lily could figure it out, Oh Ming moved his lips forward and kissed her lips accurately. Yu Lily was stunned. Before she could react, Oh Ming held her in his arms and stood up straight. Yu Lily was held by his waist, so she was unprepared to be pulled up. She subconsciously stood on her tiptoes. Oh Ming gently pushed her against the glass door of the bathroom. His lips kissed her lips, and his movements were hot and eager. Yu Lily was firmly suppressed and couldn't say anything. She stared at him and pushed him, and her body struggled. The shower head was thrown to the ground, and the water kept splashing up, drenching them both. The temperature climbed inch by inch. Oh Ming's thigh pressed her against the wall, and his hot big palm was strong on her body. From the waistline to the bra, Yu Lily struggled more fiercely. However, unintentionally, her thigh clearly touched a hot and hard spot. At that moment, Yu Lily finally understood the reason. What a beast! He's blind, but he's still in heat. She opened her mouth angrily and bit down hard on his tongue. Oh Ming was caught off guard. His tongue was bitten, and he released her out of habit. Pervert. Yu Lily spat and reached out to push him. "You're so troublesome just to take a bath. Don't expect me to help you bathe in the future." Oh Ming covered his mouth and cried out, "It hurts." As he spoke, he loosened his grip, revealing the bright red blood on his palm. Yu Lily glanced at him, but then she seemed to think of something and stared into his eyes. Oh Ming frowned and refused to look at Yu Lily. Yu Lily felt even more strange. She stretched out her finger and waved it in front of his face as she asked, "Can you see?" Otherwise, why would he have a nosebleed for no reason? Otherwise, why would he have such a huge reaction? When Oh Ming heard this, his heart skipped a beat. He neither shook his head nor nodded. His eyes were unfocused as he stared blankly ahead and asked, "Do you care so much about this matter?" His words were filled with hurt. When Lily saw this, she quickly waved her hands and explained, "No, I just feel strange." "How can you have such a big reaction when you can't see?" Chapter 12-14. Lily's face heated up when she heard that. Ming stepped forward again and said, "I think of the time when you and I were together. When we were in the bathroom having fun, that feeling, it was really great." Lily's face heated up even more. Looking at Ming's approaching face, she pushed him away and yelled, "You pervert. Are you going to take a shower or not?" "Yes." Ming leaned over and said in a low voice, "Didn't we say we'd shower together?" With that, he caressed Lily and whispered, "Let's shower together." Lily slapped his hand away, but Ming's hand seemed to be fixed there. The familiar and unfamiliar feeling made Lily blush even more. She felt a little uncomfortable talking. She pushed him away and said, "I'll help you shower first." "Get out of my way. I'll go get the shower gel. Let's do it together. I'll help you take it off." With that, Ming's hand fumbled with her buttons. His large palm brushed against her skin through her clothes, causing Lily to tremble sensitively. "Your hand." Lily looked down and saw the blisters on his hand. "Doesn't it hurt?" "It hurts." Ming lowered his hand and said, "If it hurts, you don't have to use your hand." With that, he squatted down and lowered his head to feel it inch by inch. His warm breath fell on her skin, and Lily felt her body tense up. The throbbing feeling spread from the skin that he had touched to the rest of her body. Ming lowered his head and bit her button. She didn't know if it was intentional or not, but his teeth always grazed her skin. It didn't hurt, but it brought about a different kind of wonderful feeling. Lily's breathing slowly became rapid, but she quickly regained her senses. She pushed his head away and said righteously, "Ming, I only listened to Uncle Wen and took care of you for the time being. Don't think too much about it. I have no intention of getting back together with you. But I do." Ming leaned forward again and whispered, "I want to get back together with you. I want to be with you. I want to marry you. I want to have children with you." It's the same words again. When Lily heard that, she no longer found it romantic. Hearing that, he snorted coldly and said, "Saying the same thing once will have an effect, but saying it again and then standing you up. Is it fun?" "I'm serious, Lily. Really, I'm serious. The Civil Affairs Bureau is open tomorrow. Let's go back and get our marriage certificate, okay?" Ming hugged her with one arm and whispered in her ear. "Enough." Lily pushed him hard and snorted. "Do you think I will still believe you? How many times have you said the same thing? You can secretly count it yourself." Ming felt a pang of pain in his heart. Lily's reaction was both unexpected and within his expectations. Fortunately, he had yet to reveal his final trump card. Ming took a step forward and said, "It's my fault. I'm sorry. I didn't believe you. I'm blind and disabled, so I feel inferior. I didn't want to hold you back, so I said those things to you." Chapter 12-15. Such self-ridiculing words fell into Ming's ears and made him feel even more uncomfortable. The woman in front of him clearly had reddened eyes and was on the verge of collapsing with tears, but her voice didn't reveal anything at all. If he really couldn't see, he would definitely be deceived by her. But he could see, and he saw everything. This woman has always been so stubborn. It's not shameful to show weakness occasionally. Can't she show weakness a little? Ming's heart was stuffy and painful. He lowered his eyes and still did not dare to look up. He whispered, "I know I have done a lot of wrong things. Give me another chance, okay? I should say this to you." Lily held his face in her hands and finally couldn't help it. Her voice was a little choked. Tears fell uncontrollably. Lily quickly raised her head and held back her tears. After taking a few deep breaths, she said, "Give me a chance to choose, Oh Ming. I don't want to be with you anymore." He always asked her to give him a chance, and she gave him one. But every time, it would only result in deeper humiliation. Every time, I will deal with my mother. We won't go home in the future. We will live outside, so you won't meet my mother. Oh Ming reached out and pulled Yu Lily's hand. Let's go back to Kingstown tomorrow. We will go to the Civil Affairs Bureau, get married. Oh Ming, you are always like this. Yu Lily shook him off. Talking to yourself. You always think that what you do is right, and you never care about other people's feelings. Yu Lily looked at Oh Ming in front of her, chuckled, and bent down to pick up the shower head. She lifted his hand with the cast and rubbed the shower head on his body. She said, "Uncle Wen should come to pick you up tomorrow. If you want to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau, just go. It doesn't matter who you get married with, whether it's Shen Manting, Zhang Manting, or Li Manting. I know my identity. I will not interfere with your life in the future, nor will I enter your world, so you don't have to think about comforting me. I have money now, and I am a cartoonist. I don't need to depend on you to live, and I don't need you to be responsible for me. After you go back, remember to live a good life and pretend that I never existed, okay?" His voice became softer and softer. Yu Lily's throat was sore, and she felt uncomfortable. Tears fell down, and Yu Lily finally couldn't hold back her tears. But in the end, she did not cry out. Biting her lower lip, she expanded the water and washed it over Oh Ming's body. Oh Ming took in Yu Lily's reaction. He pulled her into his arms and whispered, "No, I won't allow it. There is no Shen Manting, Zhang Manting, or Li Manting. I only want Yu Lily. I don't want to marry anyone except you." However, Yu Lily smiled bleakly and hung up the shower head. For a moment, the water was rushing toward Yu Lily's head. Yu Lily closed her eyes and unbuttoned her clothes one by one. Soon, she took off her top. Oh Ming quickly lowered his eyes. His throat felt dry, and his Adam's apple bobbed up and down. Feigning ignorance, he reached forward to touch it. Chapter 12:16. Oh Ming's body stiffened. For a moment, he didn't know how to react. Yu Lily saw his obviously stiff body and his obvious reaction. She bit her lower lip. She went forward to take a bath towel and put it on his head. "You can go out." With that, she opened the bathroom door. "Take 1 step forward, turn left, and take 3 steps out of the bathroom. After about 4 or 5 steps, you'll reach the bed." Oh Ming's body didn't move. When Yu Lily saw that, her lips curled into a mocking smile. "I'll get ready." "Get ready? Prepare for what?" Oh Ming had an ominous feeling in his heart, but when he heard that, he didn't ask much. He felt his way out. Yu Lily turned the water on to the maximum and took a shower before walking out. Oh Ming had already put on his bathrobe and boxers. He seemed to have sensed her coming out and turned his head in her direction. Yu Lily was wrapped in a bath towel. She walked forward barefoot and looked at Oh Ming. Then, she let go of the bath towel. Oh Ming's body stiffened, and he sat in the same place without moving. Yu Lily didn't notice his reaction. Looking at his unfocused eyes, she pushed his shoulders and fell on the bed. Then, her soft lips fell on his lips. Oh Ming had never imagined that Yu Lily would do that. Subconsciously, he reached out and hugged her. Yu Lily's kiss didn't go deep. She gently moved down and sucked on his Adam's apple. Oh Ming's reaction, which had calmed down with great difficulty, suddenly rushed up again, and it was fiercer and more urgent than before. His reaction was too violent, and Yu Lily could clearly sense the change in him. Then, she slowly kissed him inch by inch. Oh Ming hugged her and buckled her up with his legs. He pressed her down with one hand to bring her closer to him. The warm and soft body pressed against his, and the wonderful feeling made his heart itch. But, he didn't rush to do anything to her. The strange feeling in his heart grew stronger and stronger. There was something wrong with this woman. Oh Ming knew her too well. The more she acted like this, the more he felt that something was wrong. What do you want? To give it to you. Yu Lily's words were straightforward. Don't you want it? I'll give it to you. Yes, very much. But, how did Yu Lily change so much? This was not normal. Is there a but? When Yu Lily heard that, she rubbed her body against his, easily igniting his anger. In a low voice, she said, but, after I give it to you, we'll really break up. Just think of it as, having a breakup party. Breakup party? The fire in Oh Ming's heart suddenly froze. What do you mean? After this, don't ever see me again. Yu Lily didn't look at his expression. She pressed on top of him, lowered her head, and kissed his chest. You and I are not from the same world. Forcing ourselves to be together won't lead to a good result. Who said that? Oh Ming gritted his teeth and said angrily, you said I was self-righteous. What about you? Surnamed you, you're even more self-righteous than me. Whatever you say. In any case, there would be no future between them. Chapter 12-17. What last time? What breakup sex? When she said those things, did she ask for his permission? Oh Ming was furious, but he didn't know what else to say other than to reject her. Oh Ming turned around and faced his back to Yu Lily. Yu Lily was pushed away, and for some reason, she let out a sigh of relief. Looking at Oh Ming's curled back, she asked, you really don't want to? Oh Ming was swollen to the point of pain. How could he not want to? Oh Ming had no doubt that if there were any problems in the future, it would definitely be because of today. But, if it was the last time, he would rather not. He didn't want anything else. What he wanted was her, not the last time, and definitely not the breakup sex. Oh Ming pulled the blanket over his head and remained silent. Yu Lily picked up the towel she had just taken off and covered her body with it. Then, I'll leave first. Leave? When he heard that word, Oh Ming was even more sensitive and jumped up. He turned around and reached out to grab her. Opening his arms, he pulled Yu Lily into his embrace and said angrily, why are you leaving? Who said you could leave? With that, he carried Yu Lily and turned around to fall onto the bed. You're not allowed to leave. Aren't you blind? Yu Lily's back was facing him. She could clearly feel the warmth coming from him. She coldly smiled. How can a blind person hug me so accurately? This is called telepathy. Oh Ming didn't have the slightest awareness of being exposed. He hugged her and nuzzled her neck. I can feel wherever you are. Otherwise, how do you think I chased you all the way here? Do you think I'm a 3-year-old child? Yu Lily turned her head and looked into his eyes. At the same time, Oh Ming closed his eyes and said, if you don't believe me, you can try. I can find you wherever you are, regardless of whether I have eyes or not. Yu Lily let go of his hand and wrapped herself in the towel and took 2 steps back. Oh Ming closed his eyes and reached out to grab Yu Lily. Yu Lily's eyes darkened. She took 2 steps to the left. At the same time, Oh Ming reached out to the left. Yu Lily went to the right, and Oh Ming did the same. She was pretty sure she hadn't made a sound. But Oh Ming really seemed to have a telepathic connection. He could clearly sense her location every time. Throughout the whole process, Oh Ming did not open his eyes. Yu Lily stepped forward to stand in front of Oh Ming and reached out to touch his cheek. Would I never see such a proud man in the future? Would such beautiful eyes never be able to see again in the future? Yu Lily couldn't tell if she felt sorry for him or if she sympathized with him, or if she felt both. Oh Ming closed his eyes and held her hand. In a low voice, he said, in the future, even if I am blind, I will always remember your face. I will never forget you. Oh Ming, do you love me? Love, she blurted out without hesitation. How much? Without you, I will die. When Yu Lily heard that, she burst out laughing. He moved his hand away and tried to retract it, but it was held tightly. Oh Ming's eyes were still closed as he held her hand. You don't believe me. Then do you trust me? I believe you. Still without the slightest hesitation. I don't love you. I don't want to be with you. Chapter 12:18. His eyes were full of pity. His dark brown pupils were bright and as deep as a lake at night. Yu Lily was clearly reflected in his eyes. When Yu Lily saw his eyes, her heart trembled slightly, and an unknown emotion surged. It rushed to her heart, and then it rushed to her eyes. The liquid suddenly filled up, and in a flash, it drooped down. Oh Ming looked at her and covered her face with one hand. He whispered, "Why are you crying?" Hearing that, Yu Lily was even more sure that he had seen it. Just a moment ago, she was still thinking about what he should do in the future. At that moment, Yu Lily felt that her heart was like a roller coaster, and the ups and downs were indescribable. Yu Lily couldn't help but pout, and the grievance in her heart suddenly came out. She opened her mouth and cried, and big drops of tears fell. When Oh Ming saw this, he felt even more distressed. He pulled her over with one hand, kissed her wet hair, and whispered, "Don't cry." The extremely gentle voice had its own unique charm. Her originally wavering heart was suddenly hooked back to him. Now, even if she wanted to, she couldn't. Yu Lily lay on his shoulder and cried like a child. She shouted, "You liar." When Oh Ming heard the childish yell, he smiled and coaxed her in a low voice, "Yes, I'm a liar. You clearly saw it. Why did you lie to me? Why did you do this to me?" Yu Lily raised her fist and punched him twice on the back. She didn't use much strength, and it didn't cause any pain. Oh Ming hugged her tighter and whispered, "I was afraid that you would hate me. How could I trick you into coming back if I didn't hurt myself? Even if you hurt yourself, I don't want to talk to you. If I didn't hurt myself, I'm afraid you wouldn't even look at me," Yu Lily said. What Oh Ming had said that day was too cruel. He thought that he would really be like that for the rest of his life, leaving no way out for himself. Who knew, after waking up from a coma for 2 days, he could suddenly see. This kind of surprise brought Oh Ming not only joy, but also regret. He regretted his cheap mouth, regretted his impulsiveness. Based on Yu Lily's character, if she found out that he had recovered and wanted to get back together with her, she would probably run even further and faster. Now, although it wasn't the best time to confess, he couldn't pretend anymore. If he continued to pretend, he would be exposed sooner or later. He might as well confess himself and perhaps suffer less. If the incident in the afternoon happened a few more times, it would be enough to make him suffer. Recalling Shinjilia's prank in the afternoon, Oh Ming gritted his teeth. After crying for a few minutes, she quickly wiped her face, straightened up, and pushed him hard. Oh Ming was pushed, but he didn't loosen his grip. Instead, he tightened his grip. "Let go." "I won't." Oh Ming's voice was calm, but there was no room for dispute. "The reason why I confessed so quickly was not to let you go." Yu Lily grinned. "Since you're fine, there's no need for me to take care of you anymore. You can let go." "I'm going back." "Go back." Oh Ming's eyes darkened, and he pulled her hard. "Your man is here. Where else are you going? Didn't we break up?" Chapter 12:19. Oh Ming's voice was domineering, with an indisputable tone of command. "I don't want to." Yu Lily pushed him away again. "You have no sincerity at all. Why should I get back together with you?" When Oh Ming heard that, his eyes lit up. His heart was filled with joy. His lips unconsciously curled up as he asked, "What kind of sincerity do you want?" Yu Lily tried to shake his hand off, but she couldn't. With that movement, the bath towel, which wasn't wrapped tightly, fell off. Oh Ming's gaze naturally fell on it. His eyes darkened, and his emotions surged. His gaze was filled with a desire to possess her. He was like a hungry wolf that had seen meat. Lily's hair stood on end under his gaze. She quickly covered her chest with her remaining hand. But, by covering the top, the bottom was exposed. Under Ming's naked gaze, Lily's face became redder and redder. She reached out and covered Ming's eyes. "You're not allowed to look." Ming's only hand was holding onto Lily's arm. Now that his eyes were covered, he couldn't move her away. His lips curled up in a good mood as he said, "Why can't I look at my woman?" "Who's your woman?" "You're so shameless." Lily's voice was full of disdain. However, when he said these words, the corners of his lips curled up. Unable to control his emotions, his heart was overflowing with uncontrollable chaos. At that moment, Lily felt like she was about to fly. What should I do? I'm so happy. She was so happy that she didn't know what to do. Covering Ming's eyes, Lily looked at his lips. She tiptoed forward and planted a kiss on his lips. However, after such a kiss, Lily greedily wanted more, and more. Her soft lips moved around his. Lily stuck out her tongue and gently licked it. Ming's Adam's apple bobbed up and down. Subconsciously, he tightened his grip on her wrist. He pulled her over and easily held her in his arms. But, he didn't dare move again. "In your eyes, what's the difference between me and an inflatable doll?" Yes. Of course there was. He had never used a doll. She had always been the only woman. He had never even touched a doll. However, if he behaved too horny, this woman would definitely be unhappy. Therefore, he could not move. Lily kissed him for a long time, but Ming didn't respond at all. Feeling defeated, she bit his lips in revenge. Ming felt the pain and quickly pursed his lips. He suddenly felt a little uncertain about what this woman was thinking. Lily gritted her teeth and hit him angrily. "What? You were the one I wanted just now. Don't you want it now?" When Ming heard that, he was stunned for a second or two. Then, he asked carefully, "Can I?" Lily felt even more suffocated. She had already taken the initiative to this extent, and he actually asked her if he could? How come I've never seen him so honest before? Annoyed, Lily pushed him away forcefully and shouted, "No." Ming was caught off guard and stumbled, but he immediately curled his lips into a smile. He pulled her back and threw her onto the bed. Chapter 12:20. The pair of eyes in front of her were as bright as the stars, bright and full of spirit. Such a pair of eyes, this is Ming. Lily's heart quietly rippled with joy. She quickly pushed him away and shouted, "Get lost." Together. Lily turned over and was about to crawl away, but Ming quickly put his arm around her shoulders. Ming was not wearing any clothes. He pressed her under his body, and his hot lips fell on her smooth white back. Lily turned her head and saw that his left hand was still in a cast. She quickly calmed down. Ming also clearly noticed her gaze. He leaned forward and kissed her gently, whispering, "It's okay." "Does it hurt?" "It doesn't hurt." "Really?" "Yeah." Ming gently pressed her against him. "Really?" His lips reached out and kissed her neck. His movements were gentle and slow. The feeling of numbness spread all over her body little by little. Lily was lying on the bed. Under his gentleness, she couldn't help but raise her head and squint her eyes. She reached back and put her arms around his neck. Ding dong. The doorbell rang. Ming's movements froze. At the same time, Lily was also stunned. Turning to look at the door, Lily and Ming looked at each other. They both thought of the same person at the same time. Ding dong. The doorbell rang again, and it sounded a little hurried. Lily quickly got up and pushed Ming away. After rolling over, she pulled the quilt over her body. She was naked, so of course she couldn't go out to see anyone. But her clothes were just soaked. Yu Lily was a little worried. She looked at Oh Ming and asked, "What should I do?" Oh Ming looked at Yu Lily, narrowed his eyes, and asked, "You and Shinjilia are together again?" When Yu Lily heard that, she felt even more confused. She immediately retorted, "How is that possible?" She became even more annoyed. "What do you mean by again? I've never been with him, okay? Then why do you look like you're having an affair?" Oh Ming looked at her with disgust. Then he leaned forward, squinted his eyes, and whispered, "Isn't it normal for us to be together? Even if we do something, it's none of his business." The doorbell rang twice more, and this time, it sounded even more urgent than before. "I can't. We broke up." Everyone knew that they had broken up. If this was seen, how embarrassing it would be. When Oh Ming heard that, he became even more unhappy. He bent down and looked down at her face. He narrowed his eyes and asked, "When did you break up again? Have you forgotten what you said in your house?" Yu Lily didn't look scared at all. She stared at him and asked, "Do you dare to remember what you said at that time?" "I forgot." Oh Ming pulled her up. "Don't remember that kind of thing. I had no choice but to say those words. At that time, I thought I would be blind for the rest of my life. My mother didn't like you, and I didn't want to hold you up, so Yu Lily had already guessed it, but she hadn't expected Oh Ming to explain it in such a way. Yu Lily pursed her lips and was about to say something when the phone in her bag rang. Without a doubt, it was Shinjilia. Yu Lily covered her body with the quilt and bent over to pick up the bag that had fallen on the ground. Before she could pick it up, Oh Ming picked it up. He looked at it and saw that it was indeed Shinjilia. Chapter 12:21. Yu Lily was shocked. When she was about to grab it, she heard a voice coming from the other side. "Lily?" It was Shinjilia's voice. "Yu Lily is taking a shower," Oh Ming said calmly as he walked away. As he spoke, he didn't forget to glance at Yu Lily. Yu Lily's face quickly turned red, and she shut her mouth and didn't speak. "Shower?" In Oh Ming's room. "Shower? What does that mean?" "Yeah." Oh Ming didn't even blink when he talked big. He waved his hand at Yu Lily and motioned her to go to the bathroom. "I'll open the door for you now." "Wait a minute. Why didn't you open the door just now?" "I just pressed the doorbell for so long." "If you wanted to open the door, you could have already opened it, right? Or you." Oh Ming put on his bathrobe, tied it, and walked toward the door. When Yu Lily saw that he was really going to open the door, she covered the quilt and was about to go crazy. She quickly jumped out of the quilt and ran toward the bathroom. At the same time that the bathroom door was closed, Oh Ming opened the door of the room. Shinjilia immediately rushed in at the same time that he opened the door. He looked around and finally his eyes fell on the door of the bathroom. When he got closer, he heard the sound of water coming from inside. Shinjilia was angry and looked at Oh Ming. Oh Ming was wearing a white bathrobe and holding a mobile phone in his hand. His eyes were unfocused, and he didn't know where to look as he closed the door. But there was an indescribable pride in his expression. Shinjilia felt something was wrong and gritted his teeth. "Why is she taking a shower here?" "She was wet," Oh Ming said concisely. When Shinjilia heard this, his expression was even more desperate. "Wet? Wet, Oh Ming." Shinjilia stepped forward angrily and grabbed the collar of Oh Ming's bathrobe. "What did you do to her?" Compared with Shinjilia's excitement, Oh Ming seemed much calmer. His gaze was unfocused, and he wasn't looking in any direction. However, such an expression seemed more like a provocation. "What can I do? I can't see, and my hand is broken. What else do you think I can do?" When Shinjilia heard that, he felt that it made sense. Her heart relaxed a little, and she unhappily let go of Oh Ming and pushed him away. Oh Ming straightened his collar and said calmly, "Why don't you ask her what she did to me? Why is it wet?" Shinjilia, who had finally managed to calm himself down, became even more furious. He roared, "Oh Ming! Wet, showering, doing something to him. Could it be, Yu Lily went by herself? No, it can't be. Yu Lily is not that kind of woman. Why are you so excited? I'm so scared that I don't even dare to say it." Although he said that, he didn't seem afraid at all. Instead, it was filled with provocation. Shinjilia calmed himself down and asked, "What do you mean by that?" "She helped me take a bath and accidentally got herself wet, so now she's taking a bath. Is there a problem?" Shinjilia's expression darkened, and he asked, "Help you bathe?" Chapter 12:22. Undressing, putting on clothes, showering, and wearing underwear, isn't that? Shinjilia couldn't even imagine that scene. He couldn't accept it. The woman he liked was helping another man put on his underwear, and they used to be boyfriend and girlfriend. Who could stand that? Stepping forward angrily, Shinjilia reached out and grabbed Oh Ming's collar again. He gritted his teeth and roared, "Oh, are you shameless? You let a girl do this for you, and you said it so loudly. What do you think Yu Lily is?" Oh Ming was grabbed, but he didn't have much of a reaction. Hearing that, he laughed and said, "I didn't say it very loudly, did I? Why did you have such a big reaction? Yu Lily is my girlfriend. Isn't it normal for her to help me bathe and dress?" Bah! Shinjilia couldn't stand it anymore, and his spittle splashed out. The smile on Oh Ming's face disappeared. He reached out and wiped his face, pushing Shinjilia away. "Mr. Shen, don't go too far." "Who is the one who went too far? Didn't you break up? Why are you still so entangled? Why? Is it because you're blind that the women who used to be entangled with you don't want you now? So, you can only pester Yu Lily, right?" Shinjilia sneered. "That's right. Who can stand your mother's mouth? Both mother and son have the same mouth. Serves you right that no one wants you." The bright smile on Oh Ming's face had disappeared, and it was replaced by an inexplicable smile. A pair of eyes looked forward without focus. Shinjilia knew that Oh Ming couldn't see him, but he inexplicably felt a sinister chill. Oh Ming looked calm and said, "In the face of the crazy bark of a loser, I can only give you sympathy." "You." Shinjilia's heart suddenly began to explode. He raised his fist and punched Oh Ming's face in front of him. However, before his fist landed, he heard the sound of the bathroom door being opened. Shinjilia's movement stopped abruptly. He turned his head and looked over. The first thing he saw was a snow-white shoulder. Before he had time to see more, he heard Yu Lily scream, and then the sound of the bathroom door being slammed. Yu Lily did it on purpose. Oh Ming could tell that she was trying to calm Shinjilia down. Shinjilia had no idea what was going on. He stared at the door of the bathroom, and his mind was filled with images of fair skin. Her white, misty skin was beautiful. Tempting and beautiful, it lingered in his mind. Shinjilia felt his mouth go dry. Suddenly, a huge force came from his side. Shinjilia staggered and fell to the ground. "Ouch!" Shinjilia screamed. He looked up and cursed, "Oh Ming!" "Shinjilia!" Yu Lily's voice came from the bathroom. Shinjilia was at the door of the bathroom. When he heard the voice, he looked up and replied, "Here. Is Yi Qianqian back? Can you ask her to bring me a set of clothes? My clothes are all wet." When Shinjilia heard that, he immediately realized that Oh Ming must have done it on purpose. Chapter 12:23. Shinjilia quickly left. After Oh Ming closed the door to the room, he knocked on the bathroom door and said, "Let's go. Open the door and let me in." "No. I don't have anything to wear. It's not like I haven't seen it before. Open the door. I have a secret to tell you." Yu Lily's back was against the bathroom door. She felt a little chilly without any clothes on. When she heard Oh Ming's words, she hesitantly opened the door. Unexpectedly, Oh Ming suddenly came in and held her with one arm. He lowered his head and kissed her on the lips. Yu Lily was completely unprepared for such a surprise attack. Her eyes widened, and her hands were on Oh Ming's chest. She struggled a little. Unexpectedly, Oh Ming let go of her at once. Looking at her arms that were half covering her body, his eyes darkened. Shinjilia saw it just now. Saw it? Yu Lily was stunned, but she quickly understood what Oh Ming was talking about. Yu Lily blushed. She could clearly see the displeasure in Oh Ming's eyes and the obvious jealousy that surrounded him. Oh Ming felt even more annoyed when he saw her delicate behavior. He pushed her against the sink and asked, "Why did you suddenly open the door?" "I can solve it myself. I heard that the situation wasn't right, so you opened the door and let the guy see?" Oh Ming gritted his teeth in anger and pinched her nose. The guy's face changed when he saw it. It was like a male dog in heat. "I only stretched out my hand. I shouldn't have seen anything, you're still talking." "I saw it all." Thinking of how Shinjilia had seen her bare shoulders, her heart felt like it had been scratched by a cat. "Really?" Yu Lily felt a little guilty and shrank her neck. Seeing her like this, Oh Ming felt even more depressed. He lifted one of her legs and gritted his teeth. "Vixen." Yu Lily was shocked and quickly pushed him away. She shouted, "What are you doing? They'll be here soon." Oh Ming hugged her tighter and kissed her neck. He pressed his lips against her skin and whispered, "I can't wait anymore. I've been holding it in for a long time. Don't you know?" Yu Lily pushed him and looked at the open bathroom door. She lowered her voice and said, "Are you crazy? What will we do when they come in? I can't get in. I locked it." Oh Ming's lips moved lower and lower, igniting clusters of flames. Soon, they burned brightly. Yu Lily hugged him and couldn't help but dance with his movements. Ding dong. The doorbell rang. When Yu Lily heard the voice, her body tensed up. She pushed Oh Ming hard and exclaimed, "Stop. They're coming." But Oh Ming didn't care. He pressed her against his waist and sank, ding dong. Ding dong. She subconsciously clenched her fists. Listening to the hurried doorbell, she pushed him harder and harder. Unexpectedly, Oh Ming acted as if he couldn't hear it. He lowered his head and kissed her lips. His actions were rough but gentle. Inadvertently, it had stirred up layers of emotions. The wonderful feeling made her want to cry out. Yu Lily reached out to cover her mouth. Her breath was heavy and lingering with the man in front of her, but she didn't dare to make a sound. Chapter 12:24. After all, there was a door between them, so the sound was not loud. But when she heard the sound, Yu Lily felt even more guilty, and she felt even more excited. Oh Ming looked up and saw Yu Lily's expression of pleasure, pain, and anxiety. He smiled and was quite proud of himself. He forcefully removed Yu Lily's hand from her body and slammed it into her with all his might. "Ah!" Yu Lily couldn't hold back, and her throat let out a broken gasp. But she quickly bit her lower lip and lay on him to stop herself from making a sound. Ding dong. Ding dong. Ding dong. The doorbell kept ringing, and it became more and more urgent and frequent. Shinjilia was outside, banging on the door and shouting, "Damn blind man, open the door. I'm here to deliver clothes." It sounded like he was really angry. Yu Lily looked up and pushed him. She gasped and whispered, "Hurry up, all right." Oh Ming's lips curled into a smile. His already heavy movements became faster and faster. Yu Lily couldn't stand it anymore, and her breathing became more and more rapid. "Ah." "Slow down." Oh Ming chuckled and slowed down a little. He whispered in her ear, "Tell him to stop knocking. It will affect my normal performance." Yu Lily's face became even redder. She stared at him and growled, "Beast. Huh? Oh Ming raised his eyebrows slightly, and his voice became longer. His movements suddenly stopped. What did you say? Beast. Ah. What are you doing? That's not how sex works. Come on, I'll teach you. No, shoo, do you want him to hear what we're doing? Keep your voice down. Although he said that, his movements were not small at all. The man's suppressed breathing and the woman's suppressed voice were isolated by the door. His movements became more and more urgent, and the sound became louder and louder. It formed a completely different style from the hurried doorbell and the shouting of banging on the door. Ding dong. Ding dong. Lily was knocked around, and her eyes were full of stars. The doorbell kept ringing, and she didn't know when it stopped. This was definitely the most exciting and most difficult thing Lily had ever experienced. The doorbell rang again, and a woman's voice came from outside. Lily, are you in there? Yi Qianqian knocked on the door. When she saw Shenjilia's furious expression, she felt some sympathy for him. How much time had passed, and this man and woman were inside, tsk. If that was the case, then these two fellows were too bold. There was no response from inside. Yi Qianqian pressed the doorbell again and shouted, You Lily, I've brought you clothes. Just when Shenjilia thought that no one was going to open the door, there was a soft sound from the door, and it was quickly opened. When Shenjilia saw this, he immediately pushed the door open and entered. Oh Ming was still wearing the bathrobe, and he didn't look any different from before. Shenjilia was so angry that he roared, Why didn't you open the door? Oh Ming was calm and composed. He didn't look like he had been yelled at all. He said calmly, I don't want to open it. When Yi Qianqian saw it, she couldn't help but take another look at him. This kind of attitude is even more infuriating than directly shouting back, So, why have you gotten over it now? Yi Qianqian couldn't take it anymore. Chapter 12:25. I waited for so long, and you didn't open the door? Yi Qianqian felt that his words were not credible. She looked at him strangely and then looked into his eyes. She reached out and waved her hand in front of him. However, Oh Ming still did not respond. It was as if he did not know that Yi Qianqian was testing him. Yi Qianqian pouted and walked to the door of the bathroom. Shenjilia wanted to come forward, but Yi Qianqian pushed him away and shouted, What are you doing? I'm bringing clothes to a girl. Do you want to go in? Hearing that, Shenjilia subconsciously looked at Oh Ming. Oh Ming acted as if he had not heard them. He turned around and groped his way to his bed. The bed was a little messy. At a glance, it was obvious that someone had slept in it. However, whether it was one person or two people who had lain on the bed, that would be, thinking of this, Shenjilia was even more angry. If he had known this would happen, he would not have been so soft-hearted. Asking Lily to take care of this guy was like sending a sheep to the tiger's mouth. Yi Qianqian knocked on the bathroom door and shouted, Lily, it's me. The bathroom door opened quickly. Lily reached out her hand and said, Why are you so late? No one opened the door. We can't come in. Yi Qianqian was a little angry. She pushed the door and wanted to squeeze in. But anyway, your ex-boyfriend can't see you. You can just open the door. People who don't know will think you are doing something in there. This was a half-truth, half-lie, mixed with a bit of testing. When Lily heard this, she immediately thought of what had happened, and her face suddenly became hot. That guy is so hateful. She had specially washed it with hot water and washed the sink, for fear that someone would find any traces when coming in. This must be a guilty conscience, right? Or a secret affair? Thinking of this, her face became a little hot. I'm doomed. I can't let Yi Qianqian see this. He reached out and pushed Yi Qianqian out. Don't come in. Just give me the clothes. What are you afraid of? We are all women. You have clothes, and I have clothes. As Yi Qianqian spoke, she subconsciously turned her head to look at Shenjilia. She found that Shinjilia obviously cared and wanted to come in. She felt a little sympathy. Why won't you let me in? What are you doing inside? For the first time, Yu Lily felt that Yi Qianqian was so gossipy. She cursed in her heart. However, since she had already said so much, if she still blocked the door and refused to let her in, it would undoubtedly arouse more suspicion. Yu Lily thought about it and loosened her grip. Yi Qianqian pushed the door open and walked in. She found Yu Lily hiding behind the door with a red face. She was a little surprised and asked, "Why is your face so red?" Yi Qianqian's words made Yu Lily's heart tremble. However, he quickly pretended to be calm and snatched the clothes from Yi Qianqian's hands. He glared at her and said, "I don't have clothes to wear, so I had to turn the hot water to the maximum. How could I not turn red?" Yi Qianqian was skeptical. She looked her up and down. It seemed that other than her skin being fairer than hers, her breasts being bigger than hers, and her waist being slimmer than hers, there was no other difference. Feeling Yi Qianqian's gaze on her, Yu Lily suddenly felt lucky that Oh Ming was a little more anxious than usual. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.